What happens when you type google.com? Hello everyone, welcome to Kernel Bytes, where we don't just learn technology, we actually understand how it works. Let's begin. Have you ever wondered what actually happens after you press enter right after typing google.com? How does your computer know where Google is? How does your request travel across the internet? And why does the web page appear in less than a second? Today, we are going to uncover all of it. But here is something different about this series. This isn't just a single video explaining what happens when you type google.com. Think of it's a journey. Whenever we encounter a new concept, whether it's an IP address, DNS, HTTP, or TCP, we'll temporarily pass our journey, dive deep into that concept, understand it completely, and then return to continue where we left off. Imagine it's like a recursive tree. Every branches teach you something new, and eventually all branches connect together. By end of the series, you won't just know what happens, you'll know why it happens. Alright, let's start our journey. I have a computer. I open Google Chrome. I type google.com and press enter. So what happens next? The very first thing your browser does is surprisingly simple. It just checks whether it already know where the google.com is. And your browser first looks inside something called DNS Cache. Think of it like a phone contacts. If you already visited Google recently, your computer might already remember its address. If the address is found, great. It immediately moves to the next step. No need to search again. But what exactly this address is? It is just isn't google.com because computers don't understand names. They communicate only with the numbers. These numbers are called IP addresses. And because in our early stages of in the colleges or in the schools we might probably know that our the computers only communicate with binaries, it's zeros or ones. Now we learn what is IP address. Now let's pass our journey for a moment, because before we continue we need to understand what an IP address actually is. An IP address stands for Internet Protocol Address. Think of it's like your home address. If anyone wants to communicate or deliver a package to your house, they need your address. Similarly, if your computer wants to communicate with another device on the internet, it needs that device IP address. For example, there is two computers. A need to communicate with B. So A needs to know the IP address of B, and B needs to know the IP address of A to communicate back. Without it, communication is impossible. Every device connected to a network has an IP address, whether it's your phone, laptop, Google servers, or even your smart TV. And there is two versions of IP currently. One is IPv4 and next is IPv6. IPv4 is 32 bits long. I mean, this 32 bits is a representation of its size and how many IP addresses can be formed. Let's come to that later. And those 32 bits are divided into four groups called octets. Each octet contains 8 bits. That's why an IPv4 looks like this. And each number ranges from 0 to 255 because 8 bits can represent 255 different values. Sorry, each number of ranges from 0 to 255 because 8 bits can represent 256 different values. IPv4 provides approximately 4.3 billion unique addresses which can be formed. That sounds like a huge number years ago, but today, with billions of smartphones, laptops, IoT devices, servers, and smart gadgets, we are almost exhausted them. And next comes IPv6. That's why IPv6 was introduced. This IPv6 is 128 bits long, and they are having hexadecimal values for the representations. In this, 340 undecillion addresses can be represented. This is unimaginable large number, enough of address for every device on earth. For example, if you if you assign each IP address for every devices on earth, it will be more sufficient than IPv4. Okay, journey so far, well, we are typing the google.com, checking the DNS, what is finding IP addresses. Like, I'll come to the next point also. Why Google needs an IP? Now, let's come back to our journey. Earlier I said Google can be reached using an IP address. But why? Because when you type google.com, you're not directly talking to a website. You're communicating with a server. A server is simply a powerful computer that stores websites, application, and data, and it's always connected to the internet, which runs 24 bar 7. Google has thousands of servers distributed across the data centers around the world. Each server has one or more IP addresses. When your browser knows Google's IP address, it can locate the correct server. Then your browser sends a request saying, "Hey Google, I want your homepage," and the server sends back the response. First, it receives the request and process it and responds with every needed of the display of the website. Like, for example, the HTML pages, the CSS and JavaScript images, fonts, and other resources. What are the need for the websites? Your browser then combines all of these files and renders the beautiful Google homepage you see on your screen. This render is done by our engine, which is called a V8 engine. We'll be learning everything in a later part of this. But we are still on the beginning. So far, we learned what is google.com and how does your computer convert google.com into Google IP address, who performs that translation. That's exactly what we explored will be in the next video. We'll be exploring everything on the next video. Until then, keep learning, keep building, and most importantly, keep understanding. This is Colonel Bytes. See you on the next one.